Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be looking at Egypt really trying to hit the target of achieving the sustainable development by 2030. This means that Egypt's economy needs to be diversified, and Egypt is really looking forward to be an energy hub. Egypt is really planning on exporting more gas, 7.5 million tons of gas by the end of the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Also, Egypt is looking to increase its oil and mineral resources production by 790 billion pounds by the end of that fiscal year. But before we start shedding light on this file, let's check out some of the stories making the news today. And we'll start off with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who today reviewed plans to promote the spinning and weaving industry in Egypt. During his meeting with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Minister of Public Business Sector Hisham Tawfiq, President el-Sisi gave his directives to continue the state's plan to advance the spinning and weaving industry with the aim of restoring the former Egyptian cotton position. The head of state probed the establishment next year in Mahalla City, the biggest textile factory in the world, over an area of 62,000 square meters. The meeting tackled efforts of the Ministry of Public Business Sector on automating the cotton trading system in coordination with the Ministries of Trade and Industry and Agriculture and Land Reclamation. Also today, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi directed that the Egypt Olympic Games city be integrated with other sporting and cultural entities and components such as the City of Arts and Culture and the International City for Horses. The President said such an integration would help forming a comprehensive sporting and cultural approach and a coordination that harmonizes with the infrastructure of the sports system in Egypt. The President made his directives during his meeting with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Planning and Economic Development Hala Said, Minister of Finance Mohammed Maid, and Minister of Youth and Sports Ashraf Subhi. The head of state was informed about the ongoing efforts to develop and upgrade sports infrastructure of the facilities, stadiums, training grounds and living spaces across the country, as well as the improvements of international airports, transport networks, as well as the development of roads and axes in Greater Cairo and its surroundings from neighboring city, with the aim of magnifying Egypt's capabilities to host major world championships in various games at the highest international level. Presidential spokesman Bassam Rodi said the meeting followed up the executive position to develop infrastructure and sporting facilities at the republic level and to maximize Egypt's organizational capacity to host world championships. And South Korea's Eagles aerobatic team landed in Cairo to participate in the Pyramids Air Show 2022, along with the Egyptian Air Force's Silver Stars team at the Pyramids area in Giza on Wednesday. At the joint practice, Black Eagles will participate with a number of aircrafts that will carry out different distinguished air shows. EAF Gazelle helicopters Horus will take part in the show. More than a dozen Korean companies are taking part, with Hanwha Defense Company showcasing its 155mm howitzer with a maximum firing range of 40 kilometers. The joint training highlights the deep ties that bind Egypt and South Korea.
العرض الجوي بيراميدز اير شو 2022. عرض جوي فوق سفح الأهرامات بمشاركة فريق النسور السوداء الكوري الجنوبي مع فريق النجوم الفضية المصري وفريق طائرات الهل جازيل المصري. ينفذ في 3 أغسطس 2022. العرض الجوي بيراميدز إيرشو 2022. علاقات وطيدة بين مصر وكوريا الجنوبية.
These were some of the stories making the news today, but now turning our attention to tonight's topic. Now, Egypt is looking to increase its oil production by 790 billion pounds during the fiscal year 2022-2023. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
During the new fiscal year 2022-2023, the government aims to increase production for the petroleum and mineral resources sector at current prices from 671.5 billion pounds in the previous year to about 790.9 billion pounds, which is an increase of 17.8%. According to the Economic and Social Development Plan submitted by Minister of Planning Dr. Hillel Said and approved by both Houses of Parliament. At constant prices, it is expected to rise to about 675.5 billion pounds during the same period, with a slight increase of 0.6%. The increase in production of crude oil and natural gas at these high rates is due to the rise in international energy prices. The government targets to increase the output of the extractive sector to reach 686.9 billion pounds at the current prices compared to 575.6 billion pounds the previous year, which is achieving a growth rate of more than 18.1% at constant prices, to reach 581.2 billion pounds in the same period with a slight increase of 1%, which is due to decline in the output, which was of the extractive crude oil by 2.9%. The Economic and Social Development Plan for the new fiscal year 2022-23 directs the investment for the development of petroleum and mineral wealth sector amounting to 49.5 billion pounds during the year of the plan, of which 17.6 billion pounds was for the refining activity and 331.9 billion Egyptian pound for extraction activities, representing 3.5% of the total investment. The private sector is expected to acquire the largest share of the sector's investment, which is by about 70%, while the public sector belongs to the remaining 30%, which is divided between the investment of each of the economic bodies, 70.2 billion pounds. The public companies 7.8 billion, while the petroleum sector is one of the mainstays of the economic growth. However, as it is a main source for providing the state's energy needs, which contributes positively and directly to meeting the requirement of sustainable and comprehensive economic development plans adopted by the Egyptian state, as well as strengthening the trade balance by developing its exports for foreign markets and rationalizing its imports from them in a sustainable manner, consistent with the consumption needs of the growing population and the requirements of the country's ambitious plan. As the part of the Economic and Social Development Plan, the government intends to invest 49.5 billion pounds in development of petroleum and mineral wealth sector during the new fiscal year 2022-2023.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're joined here tonight in the studio by Mr. Salah Hafez, the former Vice Chairman of the Egyptian Petroleum Corporation. Mr. Hafez, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Hafez, now we're talking about the government's plan for the fiscal year 2022-23. They're really looking to expand and increase production of oil and mineral resources, products, exporting more natural gas. Now, all these major plans that we are trying to achieve during the next year, by the end of 2023. Now, how are we now standing in terms of really turning into an energy hub? Are we standing on a solid ground to be able to have this sort of an increase of 17.8% increase in oil?
The hub, the energy hub, is the watts that is producing. So the watt in oil was the calorific value. For electricity, it's the wattage. Gas in Europe, when they store it in the storages, they say we have enough storages for so many watts, kilowatts, gigawatts, and so on. So energy is a unit, and the products of refineries, the fuel has certain calorific value. You can convert it. So they're all convertibles together. Like in the States, they say we're net importer of oil. They can oil equivalent to gas, or the gas, so much gas, which is so much oil equivalent. So because of that, I mean, the energy hub will give us this luxury. So we need to be a net exporter of energy. To neighboring countries. We're located between 3 different continents, as it were. So it's developing quite intelligently, and there has to be transparency, very good management, knowing all about the products in the area, the demand and the supply. And the software that can manage all this. Like in Europe, all the gas is managed mainly between 2 hubs, the one in Rotterdam and the one in London. And there are many other small ones. So this is what's giving the hope that we will increase the oil. Increase the oil, the calorific value of the oil from production, which is most difficult from production, because when you increase the production of existing fields, you make investments. You have to drill more wells. You have to work over more wells for them to produce more. You have to chase the bypassed oil down in the reservoir with the technology. So this is costly, and we don't have, we have a lot to do, really. But you make investment and you increase the production cost effectively. The gas is easier because the gas is easier to produce. You know, if you find reserves, certain reserves, you can produce 90% of it. Whereas oil, 20, 25, and then secondary recovery and third recovery because of the nature, the body of the liquids.
Well, it seems that the situation between Russia and Ukraine has really shed light on the importance and the scarcity now of the availability of energy, be it gas or be it oil, and we're seeing a lot of increases in prices for gas and oil all over the world, not just in Egypt. Now, the demand is big for the energy. Now, is this sort of challenge something that will make it much more difficult for Egypt to hit that increase in production and exportation, or does it make it much easier that there is a bigger market for Egypt's exportation of natural gas and maybe trying to find way of exporting other diverse energy resources?
Well, the export of gas depends on the capacity of the liquefaction and the size of pipelines, because you compress gas in the pipeline for it to change to move from one place to another, either inside or outside the country. And the liquefaction is you chill it to a certain temperature, 260 degrees minus. Then it will shrink, and you can put it in a container and vessel, and then export it outside. So we have to have enough capacity to export the gas. There is this limit so what is being mentioned is the maximum limit of our exportation, unless we add more trains, which is very costly now, and it takes time to do it. But so this is very good news, really, because gas, we have excess of gas, and the gas that the foreign partner is getting in return of the investment they made, or the profit gas, they get a part of the gas. We buy them from them in a way that they would not make more than 9.5% IRR on their investment. So we get them with good price, and we get part of the gas for free, because we paid for the cost and we paid the profit of. So the average, we have the gas for a very good price. And then when we export it, this is direct income for the budget of the country. The oil is different. We're net importer of oil. So to be able to increase the production of existing fields, and hence our share will be more, but you invest money to do so. This will reduce the import bills for this part. But when it's put in the pot of the energy at large, as a hub, this is completely different, and you can manipulate the exports and imports in a way that at the end you make money out of the hub, getting right of way for anything coming into the country, getting money for liquefying, getting commission for handling from changing to electricity, and export electricity to Sudan. We export to Sudan, to Saudi Arabia, to Jordan, and now we're working on Cyprus, electricity. So it's a very, very interesting and challenging setup that we're developing, and I see it progressing very nicely.
Yes. Well, Egypt has quite recently signed many agreements with big oil companies, really looking forward to, we have oil fields, we have certain discoveries there, and we've signed these memorandums of understandings and agreements for more oil exploration and excavation. Now, you've mentioned that it is a very costly process, yet it is a very profitable one as well. Are these agreements and these prospects of discovering, exploring and digging out the oil, is it a long-term plan for the Egyptian economy?
It is indeed. Yeah, you invest money for exploration until either you find commercial discovery or you fail to find commercial discovery, so they pull out and hand over all the data that they've acquired to help the next player, to find it easier. And then if you find a commercial discovery, you have to develop it. You have to, by drilling some wells, and then make the development plant, the processes, and so on, and then at the end move it to where you're going to export it, or where it is going to be used for whatever. So this it depends on the area. In the deep water it takes more time. In the shallow water it takes less time, and on land it takes less time. But in all cases it takes few years from the day you start exploring to the day you have the product to sell.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Egypt is looking forward to exporting more gas as well during the fiscal year 2022-2023. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Tariq Al-Mulla said Egypt's natural gas exports are expected to rise to 7.5 billion tons by the end of the fiscal year. Minister Al-Mulla said the growth in the natural gas sector came as a result of implementing a distinguished strategy. According to the minister, during the year 2022-2023, the financial year, which starts in July, Egyptian Natural Gas Holding Company, EGAS, expect to sign 3 on stream that will add 450 million cubic feet per day and produce 17,000 barrels per day of condensate. He further noted that the growth in the natural gas sector came as a result of implementing a distinguished strategy, stressing the vital role played by the natural gas sector in driving growth and development in the Egyptian economy. The minister added that the country's investment in the gas exploration and production would exceed $1.6 billion in both the current and coming fiscal year. Egypt will also drill 13 exploration wells in the Mediterranean Sea and the Delta region. During the first half of 2021-2022 financial year, 4 gas production projects were concluded, with 12 wells coming on stream, adding 375 million cubic feet per day and 12,100 barrels per day of condensate. The Minister of Petroleum said that the remarkable increase of Egypt's natural gas export during the past period has positive effects on the national economy and helps limit the impacts of rising prices of oil worldwide. He said Egypt has made great strides supplying domestic properties with natural gas in the past 8 years, exceeding all achievements made over 34 years since the sector started in Egypt. Al-Mulla added that the first phase of the presidential Decent Life initiative, Egypt saw its gas production rise 17% year-on-year to 53.1 million metric tons per year of the gas calendar year 2021. While the LNG export reached a record 1 million metric tons in the third quarter of 2021, according to the Petroleum Ministry figure. Meanwhile, Minister Al-Mulla said the signing of cooperation agreement in the field of trade, transport and export of natural gas between Egypt and Israel and the European Union, in the presence of President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen, it is nothing but an official recognition from her that Egypt is a regional hub for gas trading and global hub at the field of energy. He said the agreement would be an umbrella for a new set of agreements, adding that Egypt has agreement with a number of countries such as Cyprus, Israel, Lebanon, Jordan and European Union. Therefore, signing last memorandum of understanding means opening the door to new agreements that aim to increase and intensify the quantity of gas and increase the number of actors in the process.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing our discussion with Mr. Hafez now. Sir, Egypt seems to be one of the really experienced countries in terms of importing gas or exporting gas and really having the liquefaction process taking place here. Now we have the pipelines coming from Greece and Cyprus, the East Mediterranean, and we're exporting gas, and everybody was thinking, well, during the Ukraine-Russia conflict, Egypt will step in and provide much more gas to the European countries being affected by such a conflict. Now, could this be our strongest card, the liquefaction process, and are we maximizing on the opportunity of exporting natural gas to Europe now that there are so many economic sanctions on Russia?
The only LNG plants in the southern part of the Mediterranean are in Egypt and Algeria, of course. Algeria, they have more reserves and more exports, some through pipelines and some through LNG. Egypt, we've been doing the same, and we were a net exporter in 2005. And then for a reason that the price of oil went up very rapidly, and it did not do the same thing, the gas price, because there was a ceiling and floor related to the price of oil. So this sort of delayed the process, and then the two curves of the production and exports, they met and we had to become net importer again. Net importer, we have to have gasification plants. If we're through LNG coming from anywhere, we have to gasify and put it in the pipeline. Unless we're getting it from the pipeline, which we didn't have much pipelines going outside the country, except for Israel and for Jordan. So LNG, the midstream, is more difficult than petroleum. That's why the green hydrogen is developing momentum for this respect. So the midstream, you have to have a balance between the pipelines, because the minute you produce the gas, it goes into the pipeline, it has to be used on the other side, because storages is very limited. And they have to have the storages because of the ups and downs in the market. Whereas the LNG, you liquefy, put in a vessel, and then it takes time to move, and then you gasify and put it in there. So there's a breathing space. And the good hub is to identify the production here, find the demand here, the timing, how much they can take now, store, and then produce from another store, and then make the timing and the motion, the time and motion thing in a perfect way. Then you have to have many variables you deal with. If you're depending on one production and one demand, then you have a problem. But 100 producers and many countries that require that. So in Egypt, now we have the pipelines network, we have LNG, we have gasification plants, and we have enough capacity for liquefaction, but not unlimited. I mean, we cannot compete with Russia. But we compete in the drop that occurred after the war. Then they challenge and compete from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Qatar, from all other countries. They compete, but Egypt, we have a better. So we go to the maximum we have capacity, and we export it for a better price than any other competitor anywhere else.
Well, do you expect with if the Ukraine-Russia conflict goes on or continues for quite some time, would this even give us a better chance to have a bigger foothold within the market with this competitiveness?
As I said, the limiting thing is the capacity to export. So we're aiming at exporting, use our LNG plants to the full. Unless we have investment and increase trains. There's room for trains without making the basic infrastructure. It's there. Just add so it costs less, but still it costs a lot of money. Pipeline is our target now, and storages. It's not looking into but now I'm sure in Egypt we will start looking for storages. Storages, you either store the gas, because as I said, you know, the timing between production and use and limited storages makes the formula very difficult to proceed. So I suggested just off the cuff, I have thought about it, like in the States they have storages. Storages in depleted fields, because they know it's a trap, so they can put the gas and take it back, or in caverns. And we have in the Eastern Desert and the Gulf of Suez a lot of salt layers, very thick salt layers. So you drill wells and you leach the salt, and then you have caverns that are ideal for gas. And then if we can get more gas from countries that use expensive logistic method to transport to Europe, like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, they have huge reserves that is not used enough. So we could get it through our storages and then export it, increase the capacity of the LNG. The sky is the limit to what you can do when there is a drop in the market in this part of the world, and then we have at least the infrastructure that we can build upon and identify new clients and new capacities and for energy at large. Energy gives you more versatility than only gas or oil.
Yes, and how complicated or how much time would it take to have these storage facilities, be it at the Gulf of Suez or maybe even somewhere around Alexandria? I mean, looking at the main ports, how expensive, how challenging could it be to create these storage facilities?
Well, there are specialized companies, especially in the States. In Europe, they have capacity, but mainly in depleted fields. They don't have layers of salt like they do in the States or here in Egypt. So this is just an idea occurred to me, and I passed it on to people who know more about it than me. But I think it's potential because the midstream, as I said, is the most difficult. Not the upstream, neither the downstream.
Yes.
The downstream, you sell the gas, and then you deliver it in time. The upstream, you explore, do seismic, drill wells, fine. It can be stranded if the downstream is not, and the market is not properly addressed. And this is the problem with gas. It can be stranded. Huge field can be stranded unless you find the midstream management that can make use of this, and then you develop it and use it. This versatility will be available in Egypt here because of the hub.
Yes. Well, Mr. Hafez, you spoke earlier about green, green energy, green hydrogen, and there's a big call for global call for using renewable, environmentally friendly forms of energy. And in a previous episode, we spoke about the technicalities of actually producing green hydrogen. Now, Egypt has allocated about £40 billion for a green hydrogen strategy for the year 2022. With this big global call for environmentally friendly energy resources, how big can the market be for green hydrogen? I mean, when can we actually talk about it the same way we're now talking about natural gas and oil, finding the markets, really putting a proper price to such an important environmentally friendly energy source?
The green hydrogen resolves the problem of the midstream. You know, the renewable energy you can capture, but you cannot store it because storage is very difficult and very costly. And then the losses are great when you move. Excuse me. When you move it from one place to another. The green hydrogen is easier because hydrogen is not found free in the atmosphere. You have to make it through electrolysis, water and oxygen. Oxygen is in the air, and then you capture the hydrogen, and then you can store it, you can liquefy, you can move, you can, and it goes to fuel cell. You mix it with hydrogen, you get electricity, because you separate the two with electricity. When they're joined together, you get the electricity. So this is exactly what I'm trying to address, the midstream. The midstream for the gas. And then the hydrogen, if you mix it with hydrogen, you can produce ammonia, which is the fertilizer. Or you can, or urea, or you can mix it with methane, natural gas. You can mix it. In the States, they do it excessively, or they started doing it lately. They mix it with the methane and produce gas that emits less carbon dioxide, because hydrogen doesn't have carbon, so it takes the oxygen and produces energy rather than burning the gas to and emit carbon dioxide. So Egypt has taken big steps towards our debut in the green hydrogen and the blue hydrogen. The blue hydrogen is different because you use the methane and process called pyrolysis or reformate. Then you can produce it, but you emit carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide you sequestrate, or you can do something about it so that it doesn't, it's not emitted into the atmosphere. So this is our hope, really hope, because the midstream, you're solving it just upfront like this, and you can turn it wind energy or solar energy into hydrogen, and you can store it, you can move it, you can liquefy, you can mix it with natural gas. So it's a very versatile product and a carrier for between the midstream and upstream.
Well, you've mentioned that it could be a bit costly and complicated to actually store green hydrogen. So that means that maybe we'll need to find some sort of a market before we actually start producing it. Can we actually, I mean, talking about a market for exportation, but can we also
local market.
A local market, can we actually make use of the green hydrogen? Are we equipped and adaptable to just switching from oil to natural gas to green hydrogen locally?
The problem, as I said, to produce electricity from renewables is difficult. But if you produce hydrogen, you can take the hydrogen and produce electricity.
Yes.
Because you mix it with oxygen. You can take it transportation in the cars. You make fuel cells that converts the hydrogen into electricity, and then you operate electric motors. So it is, as I said, more versatile, and this versatility gives you different options. So you can use it for the first time, you can excessively use it for transportation and generation of electricity, because generally the renewable energy is okay. It's an energy that has to be exploited, but the midstream is difficult. Hydrogen, you can for the first time you can use renewables in cars, for instance.
Yes.
Because solar you cannot use in cars or planes. This one you can use. You can produce hydrogen, take it into an aeroplane, and then produce the necessary energy for the plane to be fueled.
Yes. Well, it seems that, I mean, even with the inflation of the oil and oil products markets, the local consumption of oil in Egypt locally has increased during 2022. Now, with the prospects that you've mentioned, be it green hydrogen or natural gas, even using it as fuel for cars. Now, how can we cope with this increase in demand and immediately try to switch to these other forms of energy to ensure the local stability of the market here?
Immediately is very elastic word. You know, you have to have time to convert, but with hydrogen it's faster than any other, because it's the problem with hydrogen that it can be if it's handled improperly, it can be dangerous, because if it's exposed to the air, it will explode more or less. So, but the technology is developing now to guarantee that very little, like the ethylene and methylene, there were big problems because if they explode, they will destroy cities, you know. And now they're all over the world. So in this direction, Egypt, the problem in Egypt for the hydrogen is the water. Because to produce a certain amount, 9 liters, to produce 1 liter of hydrogen. And 9 liters, if it's saline water, you have to desalinate.
Yes.
Because electrolysis will electrolyze the hydrogen and the chloride, or the sodium and the chloride. Yes. So it will have to be done in steps, one step. So it's more laborious than pure water or distilled water. But since we have problem with water, then we can have, but we have more renewable energy. So it can be organized, and you produce hydrogen from salt water in 2 steps. Things like that have been closely studied and closely addressed, and we're developing it faster than any other country.
Yes. Well, it seems that we are developing it faster than any other country. Now, Egypt is showing a lot of enthusiasm in really targeting and increasing the production of renewable energy, and we're approaching the COP27. Do other countries, developed countries from the international community, share this same enthusiasm, working with the same sort of pace, allocating all these amounts of money, trying to finance the renewable energy source, or are they still talking about importing gas, importing oil, trading in carbon-emitting fuels?
Our advantage is the energy hub. You know, we have a physical hub, not virtual hub. Those that deal with virtual hub, they just look for hydrogen produced anywhere, green hydrogen, and then they put in the system. But we will be producing it. We're producing oil, we're producing gas, we're importing oil, importing gas, and we're exporting electricity. So it will complement the logistics of energy immediately. So we're more interested, and we're more accommodating for something like that, because it will complement the problems we have to complete the circle, as it were. So other countries, I mean, they're not out of the blue. They say, okay, we're going to produce hydrogen, and then try to find how to export it. I mean, we will plug it into the system, and there will be room for it to be utilized immediately.
Well, Mr. Hafez, you've been in this field for many, many years. Now, it seems that the ministry is doing a lot of work in really trying to expand and make use of the physical energy hub here. But what role can the private sector play in such a booming energy market here in Egypt? Because companies, the private sector in specific, can really boost such a booming industry and such a booming energy sector, because it does need a lot of finances as well.
It's a prerequisite for the energy hub to be operated, managed by private sector. Governments or states cannot run something like that. The versatility and the decision-making processes, it has to be through specialized company and private sector. And luckily, we have introduced the law that can help this, to make it more conducive for the private sector to take part in the hub.
And does that also include maybe startups or entrepreneurship, small businesses? Can they jump on the bandwagon?
It should be possible, otherwise we're not doing it right.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you've heard from Mr. Hafez, it is an emerging and a booming market, really having a physical energy hub here in Egypt, not just for the oil or gas, but Egypt is looking to diversify its energy resources, talking about solar energy, wind energy, green hydrogen, green ammonia. I mean, the sky is the limit, and hopefully there is a place for the private sector, the public sector, and everyone in between. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Mr. Salah Hafez, the former Vice Chairman of the Egyptian Petroleum Corporation. Mr. Hafez, always a pleasure having you with us on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Night International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.